the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Globetrotter, our 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new shows and new video games, to boldly go where no woman with a fro has gone before. Welcome to another episode of Over 40 and Unapologetically Nerdy. I'm your host, Felicia Baxter. This week just seems to be a wealth of content that came my way, and I've actually wanted to share it with the listening audience. And it's weird because I know I don't have a whole bunch of people that follow me, but I definitely do enjoy doing something that I have complete control over. This episode is going to take on even more form. I'm going to go over things that happened that interested me in general entertainment news. I'm going to be talking about product testing. Yes, I have a new iPhone 12. I kind of like it. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm going to talk about everything in NASA nerd news and all about the Trek, because that's why I started this podcast or this channel, basically to do recaps of Star Trek. And this is going to be a recap of the 6th episode of that particular series, Discovery, as well as any updates on any spin-off, what the Instagram and other social media feeds are giving us, the pitch that I submitted also last week about moving from triage to exploration. And I hope you will continue to listen, and thank you for joining me. There were many things good about this past week, but there was many things crappy about this week too, because of course it's 2020. COVID is out of control. We are just coming off of a contentious election. That fool, Cheeto-looking fool, has not conceded, and there's death and destruction all around us. But then there's always a bunch of hope, but this part is not so much. I was cruising through Entertainment Online as well as Vulture, and I got several notifications, and also updating on people that I had no idea that passed this past year. On this past Wednesday, it was announced on Vulture that Ben Watkins, really cute little kid that completed MasterChef Junior, the 2018 season, passed away. He actually died from a crappy tumor called angiomatoid fibrous histiocytoma. It's a soft tissue tumor that affects maybe about 6 people, and I think he was the 6th. He also became junior master chef after the murder-suicide of his parents in 2017. His father did own a barbecue restaurant in Delhi, in their hometown of Gary, Indiana, and maybe that's where he got his cooking chops from. And it seems that pork chop eating Bobby Brown just can't catch a break. His son, Bobby Brown Jr., was found dead Wednesday in his LA home. They don't suspect foul play, but if his half-sister is any indication, he may have died from an accidental drug overdose. So there you go. So OMG, I got my new iPhone 12 Max Pro, bitches! Yes, it did come just this past week. I'm really excited about it. I have not had as many problems with it as, I guess, the general public, but one of the things I did notice, it is just as big as my iPhone 11. It is harkens back to the 5, maybe the 6, where it was a bit, it's more boxy, but the quality of, I believe, this is me talking. It's a pretty phone. I got the gold, the rose gold one. It's really just a gorgeous finish on it. They don't have that the newer kind of magnetic charging cable. It just feels that it's easier. They don't have the home button, and that may actually take a bit getting used to. I think they think that the battery half life is much longer than any previous iterations of the phone, which I think is actually cool. They believe that there's an issue with the screen. There's some green tint problem that they thought that they may have addressed in one of the releases of the iOS 13.6.1. I have not noticed it. What I have noticed is that my background, my screensaver, is probably the sharpest that I've absolutely ever had. I think that the experience of other users I have not witnessed at this time, but then again, I haven't dropped it yet, and I haven't had the screen replaced at all. I think that this particular, I'm really impressed with the resolution of the camera and the screen itself. These flat edges, the ceramic shield makes the cover and the screen a little bit more durable. Those are the things that I actually think are an upgrade from the previous versions of this particular phone. I've also noticed that 5G and the connectivity is probably better than my 11 and definitely better than my 8. I'm looking forward to, basically, it just has so much, not only connectivity, but efficiency, and what they basically call the ease of interactivity is probably one of the many upgrades on this particular product. And Sony better watch out, because the camera on this phone makes it really easy not only to do a great selfie, but it also, you can produce some very high quality photographs. I'm just overall impressed with this particular phone. And no, I don't. There are no ear pods that come with this, nor a power adapter that actually you have to purchase separately. But that's fine, because I actually have a charging cable that doesn't require that I actually that a particular wired iteration to be able to charge the phone. It is expensive, but that's what I expect the phone to actually be. And it's the new USB-C lightning cable that you actually have to make sure. And I think I had something else, so I had an adapter that appropriately fitted. So it really was not such a big deal for me. I Overall, I'm actually really happy with the performance of this phone. And again, I have the insurance on it, so if I crack up the screen, I can actually get it replaced. But I did get a screen protector, as well as a really cool Carson and Quinn flowered case to go with it. So I'm hoping that'll protect my phone from the Felicia of it all. I'm looking forward to the delivery of my new um, MacBook Air with the new M1 chip next Tuesday. So I'll be able to, hopefully, I'll be able to get a handle on it and be able to report on next week's Over 40 and Unapologetically Nerdy, the Tech Corner, to let you know just my first impression of that device. Overall, I'm going to give this a pew, 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 pew. What is that? 4 or 5 pew pews of my just how I'm actually really just impressed with the new upgraded phone. It's not only pretty, it's actually a pretty good, decently working phone. I haven't noticed any of the screen issues with it yet, but as I said, haven't dropped it. But I'll let you know if I do actually have any issues with it in the upcoming weeks. We live in a time where being smart and exploration and science is being made fun of. We are encouraged to be stupid, not because if it is looked upon as not being cool or whatever, to understand and be curious about space and about science and wanting to be led by the numbers. This type of bullying and cool kid mentality, which is really junior high, is being propagated by the type of political environment that we live in. And for those people that wanted to basically dismantle and shelve NASA, I'm glad that they did not get their way, because NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Agency, that I have the pleasure and the honor of being an intern of the Space Life Sciences training program back in 92. That summer was probably one of the best summers of my life. It allowed me to dream big, and a kid from Virginia, lower middle class, African American, I dared to be able to dream. I'm glad they did not box the entire space agency. And we are, even though we're kind of in triage mode now because of the out of control nature of the pandemic, there's still great things going on in research. I'm actually really glad. I'm glad Moderna and Pfizer science is winning the day as far as getting a vaccine. But I'm also very glad that that billion dollar Hubble telescope that had so many issues when it was initially launched is also giving us these wonderful and beautiful pictures about our universe. And I'm so glad that I get to be an old head space nerd. I have the opportunity and the time to look at all of this information that is available and free as a tax-paying citizen. I'm so glad that I get to look beyond myself and my selfish needs and just enjoy the glory that God has made for us, because the views from space are just absolutely spectacular. NASA, if you navigate to nasa.gov, they have the image of the day, and this Hubble views of a galactic waterfall where it basically shows two different galaxies interacting with each other. And you can actually see what appears to be space dust, like fairy dust, that is being streaking across the universe. Even though if two galaxies merged together, it would be catastrophic, of what this, from what the European Space Agency basically has said, it does make for a great telescope picture. And it's also allowed me to put something on my Christmas wish list. I want This also makes me want to be out a little bit further out from the city and be able to have a telescope and just be able to see some of these things on a smaller scale, of course, but being able to just stare at the stars and enjoy the beauty of the night. These types of things is why I'm glad I did that internship, and I'm glad I have this opportunity to enjoy all of these things. No, they're not free, because my tax dollars actually contributed to Hubble and the telescope, as well as the continuation of the mission of NASA. But these photos are just absolutely amazing. The one that I'm going to actually post in the notes is It's called a cosmic cinnamon bun. It's basically a constellation or another galaxy, UGC 12588. It's a spiral galaxy that actually looks like a cinnamon bun. But again, it's absolutely beautiful. And again, it's one that's also sprinkled with fairy dust. But the reason why I'm mentioning NASA is because um, there is a convergence of our lack of dependence going forward for how America is going to get back um, to the moon and the importance of that. Uh, there was a successful launch this past weekend where the astronauts, Shannon Walker, Victor Glover, Black brother, and Sochi Noguchi. And there's one person that seems to be missing, but oh well. He also was a part of the mission. I think he was one of the commanders of the mission. But it's all a part of our agreement to get Americans back on the moon. And we've actually partnered up with the commercial Elon Musk, even though he's a freaking nutbag, to basically using technology and commercial industries and etc. to get us back there. Whole industry separate from the government that has sprung up to support this mission and this vision. And we're looking like we're right on target where 2024 it is absolutely a possible date. What cracks me up, it seems like when Trump gave the mandate for us to get back to the moon by 2024, he was anticipating a second term. That's not likely. He's fired. He's out. But I can see this is going to be a time of renewal and kind of like a renaissance for America. And who better to usher it in, not that fool. It is so contrary to everything uh, that he stands for, because he stands for division and bullying and misogyny. And this basically is to basically a sustainable mission to basically that the moon will actually be the jump off place for us to actually get to Mars. It's an all inclusive, and hopefully, the Artemis support staff, astronauts will be representative of a diverse and inclusive type of um, cooperation to get us not only there and back safely, but then again onto Mars. The importance of this is not lost on anyone. Um, Contrary to basically this being a photo opportunity for someone that can not doesn't read and doesn't understand, this basically it represents all some very very good things about America. Um, and I'm glad that he didn't win. And when we do get there, we'll get there and be representative of the push for inclusion and togetherness. That is what this means to me, at least. And I'm hopeful that this whole Artemis mission will actually will continue on based on those high ideals. Now they're going to become to fruition. First, that we're going to land the first man and woman on the moon by 2024. I'm excited about that because that is what, if you were to think about it, it's kind of like creationist kind of story, but I'm hopeful that that first woman is going to be gay, as well as the first man be non-binary. So that will absolutely represent a true all-inclusive um, of the what the Artemis mission actually truly does mean. So look for me to give you not only some great, uh, more nerd NASA news, but also the updates from the crew that basically just landed on the International Space Mission. Any new launches, that crew is going to be up there for the next couple of months. I'll be checking in on the NASA news channel of any other great news that are coming and advances that are coming as far as space exploration and technology. And I also wanted to do this because I kind of cruised past this um, earlier, or astronauts, people, careers at NASA. As I said back in 2019, I, excuse me, 2000 and, excuse me, 1992, my bad. Can't believe it's been like 28 years, but 28 years ago, I applied for an internship, and it was very, very weird. I was up on the science floor at Coombs Hall at Mary Washington College. There is a old school corkboard, and I was just looking through it because it was like over, just kind of not very much organized. But one of the things that I noticed was I saw what was actually it was the Discovery, the shuttle. And because I saw fire, it was up underneath all these things. And I basically, they kind of fell off because it was like one push pin was holding five different advertisements for internships. Me being a sneaky little heifer that I was, I basically took down the whole thing because I did not want anybody else um, applying for this cool job. I applied for it not knowing that I, one, that I was going to get it. But then two, it would require me getting on a plane for the first time ever, and living in the Crossway Inn on Daytona Beach for basically that entire summer. I met great friends, somebody I dated for a minute, and we had classes in the morning at the Kennedy Space Center, right where SpaceX and the Resilience crew just launched from the UAB, the VAB, the Vertical Assembly Building. I walked around on those launching pads. I remember the Eagle's Nest. I remember the two landings and when a hurricane diverted the that we saw like two launches and a landing, two landings because they got diverted from Edwards. I don't know if it was fire, but I know also a hurricane in the Gulf um, diverted them from Texas. And that's why we got to see all of those really great once in a lifetime things. And I remember just the awe of witnessing history and just really enjoying um, my time working as far as hydroponics and how all hydroponics are contributing to the weed industry. But I digress. I remember raising my plants on those multi-million dollars, million dollar multi-million dollar hydroponic crates, and just the pictures that I found recently before I put a lot of stuff back in storage. These these were a time that I can't even imagine. Not if given the opportunity, not completely. enjoying it to the fullest extent. I am now looking over, because the way they do it for the government, I'm looking over the USA jobs. There's one in Huntsville, Alabama, Human Exploration Development and Operations Office. If we're going to get to Mars, that would be an amazing job to have. Astrophysicist, that's not me. Avionics and power software, nope. Historian, that would be kind of cool. Robotics, security specialist, support services specialist, and a program specialist. That was who I think it's a GS-15 headquarters, NASA. I don't know if that is in Florida or if that is actually in DC. This is a permanent position. It's not bad. Salary's not all that bad, depending on what part of the country that you're actually in. There's only actually one program specialist, budgets, and that is so freaking cool. Can you imagine being a program specialist? I don't know if some days you just want to not be here. And I'm so envious of this team that actually just landed at the International Space Center. They're going to miss all of this nonsense over the next 4 to 5 months. So that it would be great. I don't think I'll actually get to the International Space Center because my ass is too big. But at the same time, the idea of supporting the mission of NASA, I think that would be awesome. So I'm actually going to bookmark this. I applied for a position at the CDC, but I think this particular position would actually be, if I did not or could not work or do what I'm doing now, this actually position would be right up my alley. I would take a pay hit for this and do some contract work if I could actually be a program specialist at NASA. That would be like the ultimate and the coolest job ever, I think.
Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me go all out. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon'
So this is me bopping out to this section of podcasts, everything Star Trek and beyond. The Star Trek verse is just so right with content and music, and I'm not the only one, I'm sure, with the playlist, but I played DMX's Party Up because I wanted to start this podcast with, if the Federation is getting ready to engage the Jim Hadar. This is from Deep Space Nine reference there, y'all. They're throwing every ship and everything at them except for the kitchen sink. What song would you have blasting over the sound system? I chose Party Up because it's just enough drive-by, just enough bass to get the party started. That's the song I would be blasting to all of the ships. I just love it. Or
Imagine niggas lying by shooting a real bitch. Save face for rapping niggas you chill with. Imagine me giving a fuck what your fucking birthday. You know your feelings. I just thought it was another Thursday. Now imagine me cop like a niggas on some dry shit. I don't want you on a bitch, but you if it wasn't for me, say we could have been excited. You all I can another talk. I guess that made my friend excited.
that's my girl, Meg the Stallion. For all of you that know, this is like this 6 foot something chick with a mad body from Houston, Texas. one of the newest female MCs in the game that is just has blown up, and her booty is redonkadonk, and that is her newly released song. Actually, that just drops today. Shots Fired. And just as another aside, this past year has been really challenging for her, even though her stardom and her craft have taken on has grown by leaps and bounds. She's still not exempt or hasn't been spared from domestic violence. This fool from Canada basically shot her in her feet. That how dare you be strong and a female, and I'm going to fix it so you can't walk away from me. But they weren't even dating, and he didn't spare her. And he's still in this country. I don't understand why, but it is interesting that she also mentions Breonna Taylor, the young woman, the paramedic that was shot in her bed when that no-knock warrant went awry in Louisville, Texas. Excuse me, Louisville, Kentucky, and how she basically called out the Attorney General, the coon. I'm sorry, can't remember his name, but he she called him out on Saturday Night Live for not instructing the jurors to bring the appropriate charges on those fools that basically busted down her door and shot her in her bed while she was sleeping. Just because she used to date back in the day a drug dealer, she had to pay for that with her life. So I find it deplorable. She mentions it on the album. She mentioned it it was prominent in her performance on Saturday Night Live after she herself had been shot in a domestic situation. So kudos to Meg Thee Stallion, because I would be blasting either one of those as I would engage with the Jim Hadar. And what I was alluding to was what's going on in the Star Trek new universe. This is actually not new, but for those of you that have followed Star Trek from the original series through the Next Generation, and as I mentioned before, Deep Space Nine, there's been Picard, and now there's Discovery. Back in May of this year, CBS announced Strange New World, and I knew something was coming out with this because it was going to be led by Captain Christopher Pike. I think I recall him in one of the original series and maybe one of the original movies where his body is replaced by a machine. But this is also going to be Ethan Peck of Discovery fame playing Spock in this upcoming series. I think, or I don't know, I do not think if Strange New Worlds, if they've actually have published a release date on Strange New Worlds, but I'll actually keep you guys updated when it does finally drop. Between all of the Star Trek Online, there's a whole Star Trek verse with their wiki where you can actually get storylines. And I've been actually very fortunate that I've been able to pitch a couple of great things as far as Star Trek and the Star Trek universe. But there is several very robust and beautiful, capitalizing on the beautiful photographs, etc. Just not unlike, and I wonder, hold up that thought. I am wondering if NASA also has an Instagram page that I can absolutely Instagram page that I can actually subscribe to. Yes, they do. And I don't understand why I did not follow it. Because I can also follow SpaceX, even though Elon Musk is a little bit problematic. I can also follow NASA Hubble, and they in their stories they actually have you're able to actually meet the crew that is on this current mission. As I said, it's Victor Glover. He's the pilot. Shannon Walker is a mission specialist. Michael Hopkins is the Dragon commander. I knew he was actually commander. And then there's Soichi Noguchi. He's a crew specialist. All of these people are kind of older. Spent a lot of time in space. He was a legislative fellow. The pilot, Victor Glover, Air Force captain, is the only one that has not spent any time in space. Very different than the mission specialist commander and Mr. The Japanese scientist Soichi. So kudos to them again. But I've basically just I need to follow the Artemis program. The one thing about the Artemis program, that's just a story. Oh, that's hysterical. Why are they? Oh, y'all look crazy. But one of the things about the wealth of information that is available to the Star Trek lovers of them all. There's several. I don't know if this Facebook page. I'm not really on Facebook all that much because it's such a visual series. It's actually great that Instagram has capitalized and it actually used this to its advantage. Two of the baddest bitches I know that are on air today, Captain Giorgio and Philippa Giorgio and Michael Burnham, played by Susan Yeo and Sonequa Green. They basically go on a mission that I'll talk about in the recap to basically rescue Booker, who is actually a scavenger. They have this big ass Persian cat that has, I think this cat actually has its own Facebook feed. It's Grudge Cat. It is so hysterical. This cat has such personalities. Beautiful cat. And I just realized there's a picture of the character Tilly holding this cat. The cat is almost bigger than Tilly. I'm just saying, y'all. But this is from the Star Trek CBS feed, where I basically, filch as much more of my pictures for my podcast notes. But it's just great. You can basically see when they retrofit. I'll talk about this too. How the crew actually puts on their new locators. The picture of when Book and Burnham finally kiss this big ass cat. I love it. It is Star Trek CBS, the official page sponsored by CBS. There's also Star Trek logs. And every Monday, they basically update the personal logs of the USS Discovery. This past week, there was an update from Captain Saru from last week's episode 5, when he found out his home planet, Kaminar, had joined the Federation. How of the two enemies, because they're in the Kelpians and the Ba'ul, they basically reconcile. The Kelpians were actually the food of the Ba'ul. And so if they were able to put aside their divisions and basically join the Federation. It was a testament to faith, conviction, and the genuine desire for change. And those words are just apropos of what's going on now. And I hope that we can actually learn from his gentlemanly like words. There's also Ships of Star Trek, where basically it's another fan page where there are all the different ships in almost in their totality, from Romulans to the next iteration of the Enterprise, as well as this picture that I saw that they basically created that meme. This is when the I believe this is when the Federation was getting ready to attack the Jem'Hadar, because you're stronger together. So that makes actually good sense. They would be attacking against the Dominion and the Jem'Hadar in Deep Space Nine, and how that's why I was going to use those particular songs to actually my party up in my shots fired theme. But I say all of that to just compound just how rich the content is, not only for NASA, but exploration and space just in general. And I'm just so lucky that I live in this time and I have access and a signal to be able to enjoy all of the visual wealth of this particular franchise. And I honestly believe there's just so much more to come, not only with this next season that CBS has already booked for next year, that they're already filming in Canada, but also I'm looking forward to Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I'm looking forward to the finishing of this particular season of Star Trek Discovery, because we are only at episode 6 of 13 or maybe 14. I'm wondering what else awesomeness they're going to bring for us. Also, when you pitch an idea for an article or even an episode or a script, um, it's great if you have a contact person or if you have an agent. The agent can actually submit your requests to whatever platform or whatever company that you would like them to do, because that's what you pay them, their percentage. But the cool thing about Star Trek, at the back of the Star Trek magazine, they give you the information on what they are absolutely looking for as far as all things Star Trek, and if they want to commission an article or even an essay on one of their fan based books for the show. And their contact person is Kendra James. And this is how I've actually been. And for the last couple of weeks, once I learned about this opportunity, I've actually pitched two ideas. This last idea went as follows. Hi, my name is Felicia Baxter, MD, MBA, Star Trek nerd and podcaster. And I said I host a recap podcast based on Star Trek Picard last year and now the third season of Star Trek Discovery on my Podbeam channel, Over 40 and Unapologetically Nerdy. This past week, the 24th Century Discovery crew would be reunited with the remnants of the once expansive United Federation of Planets that the Commander-in-Chief Vance admits to being in triage mode. And after some convincing, Discovery would be of better use on Starfleet sanctioned missions from exploration within reason. The discovery or the rediscovery of lost worlds and a deeper understanding of the known world has to proceed, and the hope that a successful launch of the resilience and the SpaceX program and a deeper discussion is warranted. It should be done as a celebration as we draw parallels between the current success of the space program and the exploratory mission of the Discovery. Also, I believe the lesson of how the character Saru's Kelpian race reconciliation with the Ba'u, who used to hunt them for food, with our need to heal the fractured, politically divided nation that is us now. I've attached articles uh, and responses for private clients, Layers Design, and an article for the Motherland Online as examples of my work. And I also have links to my podcast channels and personal websites. And I give both of those, and it says, I look forward to working with you on this topic and any other future endeavors. What I'm going to do this weekend is I'm going to not only post uh, my thoughts on the second section of Ibram X. Kendi's book Stamp, but I'm also going to talk or further expand on the SpaceX Artemis program and the need for science to progress, because we lived in a time where science is just made fun of and is being bullied out of the psyche, and we are encouraged to accept lies and versus truth. But how the importance of the space program is not only to give hope, but also um, the willingness and and the exemplary the example of cooperation about what we can do when we are actually together, because we are truly better together. And I think an exploration and an expository um, essay on such would is needed at this time. So this is probably one of the more exciting parts of the episode, or this particular episode, the recap of this week's Star Trek Discovery, The Scavengers. It starts out like any other episode where they did basically do a recap of the previous week. Last week, it was more about being firmly back at the remnants of the Federation in the episode called Die Trying. They basically find a seed ship to basically save um, from prions, this other race of people. They think they ingested something. They have to go and find the correct food that's not contaminated in order to make the antidote for what's ailing them. The the scientist that's on the trip, on the ship, he basically loses his family. Uh, he risked it all, his own health, to try to preserve them and to bring them back. But there's no way that he can actually save them. But what it does, it introduces the strength of the crew itself. They get reunited with the Federation. Giorgio discovers that there is a someone that is a Terran expert, and he basically rewrite and erases her. But it also, by her being in the 32nd century, she's having these flashbacks where she's basically either there's some implanted memories or something. I don't know if it's Section 31, that these repressed memories that she's actually having to deal with, that's going to basically play a greater role in this week's episodes, The Scavengers. What I did instead of recording while what I did this week instead of recording while I'm watching this episode, I have decided I wrote down the timestamps of several sections that I wanted to basically recap and just let you guys in on. And I'm also trying to coordinate the transcription as well as the recording of the episode and making sure I download the theme song, uh, the theme MP3 to the Discovery, which I realized the beginning, if you listen to the beginning few chords of the Discovery theme song, it very much matches the introduction chords to the original series theme. Go figure. But anywho, um, I am going to just proceed with a summary of this episode. For the first several minutes, basically up until minute 7 minutes and 17 seconds, you basically are treated to a thrill ride of auditory as well as visual effects. As I've said previously, Discovery or CBS spent some straight up gangster dough on this series. I am just completely blown away about the beauty and the effects themselves and just how beautifully this is shot. I like the uniforms. I like all of the new technology. One of the coolest thing is when they basically roll out on this new star base, they look at all of the iterations of the Voyager and the new star chips and the Prometheus. They're just blown away like kids in a candy store of the advanced technology that is before them. You see that again when they retrofit Discovery with the nacelles that are detached, the new communicators, which are a combination of transporter and iPads, basically, in this one uh, virtual reality kind of little thing. And it is amazing. They're all just basically tripped out about just the what they actually have at the literally at their fingertips. But it but there are, I'm sure, challenges. But I'm sure there are challenges to all of this technology and what this actually means in the grand scheme of things. Let's listen to this particular section at minute 7 minutes and 17 seconds. Just a little bit of a backdrop. They're that big ass cat, and basically Booker sends a message to Burnham, basically telling him, "Come quick and yank up my ass because I'm sorry, I've been detained." And he also has information about a third black box that seems to be instrumental in learning the cause of the burn. What Michael suspects is the Federation has no chance of getting back together without this information or knowing what the burn is. I honestly think that she feels that or her mother are responsible for the burn, and she has to write it. She is a what one of the other doctors or the scientists call a responsibility hog. She's going to take that on herself, but I also suspect either Giorgio or her race of people, the Terrans, also must have had something to do with the burn too. And that's what she's been repressing, and that is what's coming to fruition. What if they have orchestrated this catastrophic event that has almost wiped out or annihilated the Federation? But let's listen to this at minute 7 minutes and 17 seconds, and how this all relates to the rest of the show and finding out more about the burn.
This will be difficult, but please,
duties and prepare the crew for a possible jump to Argus.
Yes, sir. I can't do nothing. I'm the only person on this ship who'd say yes to going on an unsanctioned mission. If I'm right about this box, then I'll be bringing back proof about what caused the burn.
You're far too smart not to realize you're dropping Saru in the fire. He is trying to prove his legitimacy, and his number one is running all around the galaxy, disobeying direct orders, which has a very familiar ring.
I'd rather regret something I did than something I didn't.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Are you in or out? Giorgio?
You had me at unsanctioned mission.
And that is why I love this show. Asking a Terran to come with you in an unsanctioned mission just because, I mean, how crazy and how lucky are you? What we are witness to is the allegiance of two real badass women that are on a mission to save the world. And in it, they save each other, but together. Different allegiances, different motivations, but when they are together, they make a formidable force. In a way, even though this Giorgio is from the alternate universe, she still had a connection with Burnham, and some ways I think that is why they continue to vibe with each other. The 23rd century, not alternate universe, captain of the original Discovery died in one of those weird missions when Burnham, there was something with the Klingon Empire. I'm going to have to relook at that episode to completely remember exactly what happened to the original Philippa Georgiou. But somehow Burnham may have been complicit in her death. And I don't think Burnham has ever forgiven herself. And that particular captain was also like a mother to her. So with that said, we see the Giorgio character have some serious psychological stress that is really not explained by everything that with her. I don't know if I don't know if it's her time with the 31st section 31, or is she flashing back to her time of as an empress of the alternate universe. But I want you to navigate to minute 11:22 and just kind of journey with me and riddle me this. What in the ham sandwich is wrong with Philippa Georgiou?
What is going on? I know something's happening with you.
Looks like a war zone.
It was caused by the burn. I've seen these ship graveyards all over. Heavily populated areas, heavily shielded. I can't get a lock on those life sign. We're being hailed.
This planet's a private salvage yard.
Why don't you get on gear?
What are you doing here?
I must be here to buy some salvage, meat sack.
All buyers go to the local Bajoran exchange.
I'm not interested in getting ripped off by an avatar. You insult me. My servant and I are transporting down.
Do that and my auto defense systems will take you out. I decide who's authorized to land and when.
You don't look smart enough to run this jump. How soon before your boss finds out I have real dilithium on board I am willing to part with, and you're making me hover like a peasant?
Hang on. Real dilithium.
What did I just say?
So basically, Giorgio and Burnham jump into what is scattered over the remnants of the Federation, these scavenger yards, therefore the name of this particular episode. They roll up against another being. This is not an Andorian, but he's just a green guy with a bad haircut. But anyways, she bluffs and she basically takes on the persona of her Empress, uh, don't mess with me self. And she bluffs her way down to the scavenger yard to basically look for Booker. In the interim, what they use is leverage that Burnham, who is a commander in her own right, she basically gets down there and poses as Giorgio's servant to look for Booker, and they're trying to locate him because they actually have to find this black box, which is basically like a jump drive with information on the burn itself. But it's not that easy because, of course, there are workers equating to be slaves that they need to basically liberate in addition to Booker, because he's actually promised them this, that they are going to need to jump down and they're going to need to rescue all of them. What they find out, though, is twofold: that that's not going to be easy. They're going to have to kill a whole bunch of Andorians because the Andorians and the Emerald Chain and the Syndicate are all intertwined. Basically, they're worse than Ferengis. They basically are just trying to survive in this post-burn world. And they have these horrible conditions on this planet. They don't have enough resources to go around. So any ships that they find that are towed there, that are crashed on these planets, they basically strip them for parts and for trade. And that is the bottom line when you live in a world that's driven by economy instead of by goodness and exploration, etc. This is what the burn has basically exposed, kind of like Corona, has basically exposed in this post-apocalyptic kind of world. Now, they basically infiltrate this camp. Of course, the first people that know about the horrors of a subjected race, blacks not so much in 32nd century. However, the Bajorans are used by the Cardassians and are used and abused by the Cardassians for centuries, from which, if you remember from Deep Space Nine, and as minor, and they had to go through their Revolutionary War or their Civil War to extricate themselves from under the boot of the Cardassian Empire. The first prisoner that they kill, it appears to me that it's a Bajoran. I thought that was apropos for everything that happened, kind of tying together and alluding to Deep Space Nine. But in minute 22:19, they basically stop BSing, and we realize the romantic interest of both Burnham and Booker. And then as Booker, they free the slaves, Booker realizes that his ship has been also retrofitted, also is tricked out, and it basically kicks ass. He's like a big kid too when he discovers they have RoboCopped his or transformed his ship into the big ass flying transformer in the sky. Both of these sections are just probably some of the coolest stuff that you'll ever some of the coolest things that you'll ever realize or see in this episode when Booker hooks up finally with Burnham, and then he watches his own ship become literally a flying transformer of the 32nd century. It is the best parts of the episode that I can actually completely imagine. This is at minute 22:19, and then again at 2925. I'm actually going to skip over 2219 because I think it's stupid. I'm not really all that romantic. But 2925 is when Booker sees his kick butt flying machine. It is absolutely priceless. Join me as I enjoy again this replay.
The perimeter fence is still on.
They'll come through.
And again, what the hell is wrong with Giorgio? She basically passes out, flashback. It's like her mind shuts off like a switch. And then she comes to, and of course she kicks the green dude's ass. But her continuous blacked out or blackouts or shuts off is really getting on my damn nerves. They're going to have to come get to the bottom of that. Who knows? She could be Borg for all we know. But this is the part that really trips me out. The Andorian pushes other people and helps his comrades out. Booker stays behind, or he basically saves Booker's life. He takes a bullet for them. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not that friend. I ain't taking a bullet for nobody. But Booker takes a bullet for him, and he basically witnesses his robo-ship come and get him. His girl comes for him. It is magnanimous. She flies in there like the black Asian black cavalry. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen, y'all. He watches it fly overhead, reconfigures, and start to blast it. It is so freaking awesome. I love this part. Very graphic. Again, well done. So well done.
Let go!
Zaps them on board. Able to take care of them as well as they can in the 32nd century. It's the coolest shit I've ever seen in my damn life. It is the best. At minute 37:56 on, it basically wraps up and it ties in some loose strings. One of the lieutenants, the Spore Drive guy, basically sees Adira talking to herself, and she's really not talking to herself. She's basically communicating with her trill boyfriend. But I apologize. She identifies as non-binary, but they use the her and she pronouns in the series, and they don't allude to the fact or that her sexuality is a non-issue in the series, but she truly identifies as non-binary. But anyways, and her Adira, the character's boyfriend Gray, she finally lets the weirdo doctor in and tells him just how it's been so hard and why she's able to communicate with the Trill host or the Trill symbiont, because her being human, she really doesn't quite understand all of the intricacies of what a joining with the human in a Trill symbiont really means. And she's still exploring that. They also explore how death is not the end of anything, obviously. How Hugh, the lieutenant, who's the doctor, basically was lost to his partner, but basically they were able to be reunited through the mycelial network. They also discuss in depth and become kind of connected because of their equal loss. She also, the Adira character, helps him to be disconnected from the jump drive, the connection or the interface to the spore drive for a minute. They think that this tween genius is going to also, probably with the assistance of Tilly, it's going to use an alternative means to be able to access the spore drive, and how important that is going to be in this mission, half military and half exploration. Like my mom used to tell me when I was little, I'm not going to chase you because I know you got to come back. That was me wilding out, knowing that if I did, I was going to have to eventually come back and take my punishment. Burnham comes back from her unsanctioned mission. She gets censured by Vance, who I'm not sure if I like a lot. I'm sure he has a hard job, but he's kind of rigid. Typical Starfleet. But she also sets up Saru because of her insubordination, and she's stripped of her command again as his second. And she's only has access as a science officer yet again. Very similar to what happened with her unsanctioned relationship with the Klingon in the first season of Discovery. So, with that said, she ended up getting the information that she knows in her heart that they need to be able to secure the safety and this reunification of the uh, Federation. But she went about it in a very rogue and not censored way. And for that, she had to be punished. I'm wondering who they are going to promote as Saru's going to promote as his second. Who knows? It's going to be Book. It could be, I don't know, Tilly. I don't think there's anyone as qualified as Burnham to be his second. I think out of necessity, she's going to have to become his second, because they're going to get into some shit that they're going to need somebody that's going to be able to think outside of the box. But her role as a science officer, I'm hopeful that she's going to not have as much access, but she's not going to have as much strictures on her life to be able to pursue the cause of the burn going forward. And that's where this episode actually is left, with Burnham thanking Saru for punishing her, but you can still feel her aloneness. But she still has something to look forward to, because now Booker is on the ship. They can actually go forward in their relationship and also explore what's actually on that 32nd century jump drive. I think that's where the rest of the episode is going to take up next week. And if you would dare join me for it, I would certainly appreciate it. And this is how I'm going to end this episode of Over 40 and Unapologetically Nerdy. The recap itself was just as long as the other several sections at the beginning of the show. But I thought that I'm hopeful that I gave a thoughtful recap in my own conclusions as well as observations in this beautifully produced section or segment of Episode 6, The Scavengers, of Star Wars Discovery, The Scavengers. I hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I've enjoyed creating it, and you would be able to navigate to Star Trek Online and all of the different social media platforms and gather and look at all of the wonderful pictures that I was able to simply review and include my descriptions in the episode itself. I hope you will navigate. If there's some people that are just still getting on your nerves, please go to shipabagadicks.com and use my promo code TNFro Got Jokes for a percentage off of your shipment, as well as the total cost of your order. Also, Writer's Block Coffee is a great way to start the day. If you're up late reviewing NASA Hubble spacecraft photos and selfies of Neil Armstrong. The first selfie, in fact, that was actually auctioned off this past week for a cool $750,000. I think that's pretty awesome. And I hope you will leave me comments at tinfroisreading@gmail.com. If it's not too trolly, I'll actually include it in the episode. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and thank you for joining me. Bye. Until next time.